To order. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Boswell.
Here.
Senator Carpenter. Senator Deneen.
Here.
Senator Givens. Senator Thayer. Senator Webb. Senator West.
Here.
Senator Westerfield.
Here.
Senator Wilson.
Here.
Representative All.
Here.
Representative Kleins.
Here.
Representative Dixon. Representative Pfister.
Present.
Representative Graham.
Here.
Representative Hale.
Here.
Representative King.
Present.
Representative Cook. Representative McPherson.
Here.
Representative Neighbors.
Here.
Representative Pollock. Representative Pratt. Representative Reed.
Here.
Representative Stalker.
Present.
Representative Stevenson. Representative Tate. Representative Thomas.
Present.
Representative Tipton. Co-Chair Howe.
Here.
Co-Chair Heath.
Here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. I want to thank everyone for being here on a Friday morning. I don't know who decided to schedule this on a Friday morning in the interim, but we appreciate everybody being here. Does anyone have any guests they'd like to introduce? Chair Heath.
I'd like to welcome my wife back to the meeting today. This is her first trip to Frankfurt since her breast cancer surgery in May the 4th. So glad to have you back, sweetheart.
Thank you. Absolutely. Anyone else? All right. With that, we've got a full agenda today. Let's get started. We have Farm Bureau and the Cattlemen's Cup. Oh, I'm sorry. First of all, we need to vote to approve the minutes. Been a motion. Is there a second? There's been a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Jumped the gun a little bit. I was ready to go. Anytime that we get Mr. Haney in the room, it's always nice to have him go first, not just jump the gun a little bit. We have some folks coming in from Farm Bureau and Cattlemen's Association. If y'all will make your way to the podium, introduce yourself for the record. Mr. Haney, y'all come on up, and y'all can begin.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Haney. I'm president of Kentucky Farm Bureau.
I'm Eddie Melton, first vice president of Kentucky Farm Bureau.
Kyle Kelly, Director of Public Affairs, Kentucky Farm Bureau.
All right, thank you. And again, good morning, Chairman Howell and Chairman Heath. Thank you, and members of the committee. We want to say thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come and speak with you this morning. And I also want to say how much I appreciate each and every one of you understanding the life in rural Kentucky, and particularly the ag community. And we are so fortunate in Kentucky to be able to have a legislative body that really understands and buys into what we are doing. Again, I have with me this morning our first vice president of Kentucky Farm Bureau, and hopefully you all know Kyle. I hope he's working up here and doing the things that he needs to be doing, and it's good to have them with us. We just want to say again thank you for the commitment that you make into agriculture, not only to us in Kentucky Farm Bureau, but really to all ag organizations and all commodity groups. You have an open door policy and really work with the whole ag industry so well. It makes being a voice for the industry very, very much stronger, and we appreciate that much. I also want to say how much I appreciate what the step that you have taken in the last couple of legislative sessions on promoting really an expansion and putting money into broadband. broadband continues to be such an essential part of the economy, not only for every industry, but particularly agriculture, our industry. We have to have access to that, and sometimes we are the most vulnerable living out in more rural areas. So the commitment that you have made, we just want to say thank you. It is very, very good. We want to really tell you that we're looking forward to a new legislative session coming on in for 24, particularly this being certainly a budget year. We have really some ideas about things that are really important to us in Kentucky. We always want to really talk about lead off things. I've done this for many, many years, given really priority issues for Kentucky Farm Bureau. And I think every time I've kind of led off with saying thank you and reiterating the importance of continuing that 50% contribution to the Master Settlement Fund and the Ag Development Board. The progress that we have made and really the investment that has been made into Kentucky has just been so strong. And we want to never forget to say thank you for that, but we also want to say we want to keep that going. That is forever important. We also have a number of issues that are really appropriations that we'd like to see continue moving forward. I'd like to list some of those that we're certainly involved in. We want to continue support for the funding of the Soil Erosion and Water Quality Cost Share Program, a program that's really beneficial all over the state of Kentucky, no matter where you are. Those things are so important in the farm community. We support also an efficient, well-administered, and adequately financed Kentucky Department of Agriculture. We work certainly with that agency every day, and we want to continue the strength that they have to be able to move forward, and it takes funding, and we encourage you to continue to do that. We also want to, I'm going to list a few things that's important to us in our policy. One is the Farm to Food Bank program. It's a program that many folks use across the state of Kentucky. The County Fair Grant Program, the Rural Mental Health, Suicide Prevention, and Farm Safety Program certainly has seen a lot of attention in the last few years, and we certainly want to continue to see that move forward. The Veterinarian Medicine Contract Spaces Program, very important to us. Funding for both animal diagnostic laboratories, certainly in agriculture, those things are so important to us. The Kentucky Mesonet Program, the Kentucky Adult Agricultural Education Program. These are funds, or these are programs that reoccur funding, and we just don't want to forget about those. We also have policy for a livestock innovation center. We feel that is in our policy. We want to see that for all agriculture and all commodities across Kentucky, and we certainly want to give certainly support to that. We want to talk about one of the things that was mentioned really in our resolutions program that we did. We just finished our resolutions yesterday. Long day activities, going through a large number of resolutions that came in from the county effort. And you know how we operate. We just finished going through each one of those. I don't near 1,000 of those, I think, of resolutions that come in, and we give attention to every one of them. Eddie chairs the resolutions committee. Kyle kind of leads the staffing of that. And one of the conversations that came out of that two-day event was a lot of conversation about large and food animal veterinarian shortage here in Kentucky. And certainly it's an increasing problem for our members. This issue was discussed, I might say, at great length, and certainly one of the outcomes was our support to continue the partnership that we have with Auburn and Tuskegee. We just feel like getting those contract spaces for our students, we certainly don't want to lose that. We want to continue to move forward with that. With that being said, we do think we need to elevate the conversation on ways to have potential solutions for incentivizing students to return to the Commonwealth and pursue a career in large and food animal veterinarian practices, particularly in rural Kentucky. That is the major goal for us as we move forward. We also need to continue the conversation on adding potential partnerships with universities in the region that already have an established veterinarian school. An example of that would be University of Georgia. So, you know, that schools that are in the region, in our region, we feel like we need to work with those and see what spaces that we can have in there for our students. Protecting prime farmland continues to be an important issue for our members. Economic development certainly is crucial to the viability of rural Kentucky, but we need to be diligent in being able to choose how we maintain the prime farmland that we have in Kentucky. So one of the ways that we think our members can protect where they want to farm and continue farming is to be able to utilize the agricultural district program. That agriculture district and conservation act has been on the books for quite some time, decades, and it's working and has worked. And we feel like that will continue to work in the future, especially when you're close to an urban area and you want to be able to maintain those prime farmland. The program calls for 250 contiguous acres to be able to get into a conservation district. We think that's a little too much for the value of farmland today, and small farmers they just can't put together maybe 250 acres. We think that could be 5 times as big as it really should be. Certainly, we would like to talk about getting that lowered in this legislative session coming forward. We think that is a good program. That it has great benefits. Folks can get out of it when they need to, and we just think that's very, very important. Lastly, I want to talk just a little bit about the importance of investing in our state's riverport industry. Riverport infrastructure is vital to agriculture industry, as we all know, both ways. We have to get our fertilizer and ag inputs upriver, and we got to then be able to get our crop and our harvest down the river and get it to the global market, wherever it is. So many of the states, or neighboring states, have already been investing money in river ports, and we do not want to get behind here in Kentucky. We want to be able to develop that. We know that it's the need is there, and we certainly want to continue on focused on that. This is just a few of the issues that I wanted to bring forward. We just appreciate so much the opportunity to be here. I would also like to take this opportunity to invite you to our annual meeting that will start on the 30th of November, which is, we're in November. And we feel like this could be the largest annual meeting Kentucky Farm Bureau has ever had. I have announced my retirement from Kentucky Farm Bureau, and effective at the end of that annual meeting. And so we're going to be electing a new. Thank you very much. Thank you. I will say I've enjoyed every minute of it. I really have. I'm looking forward. I'm not here to necessarily make a campaign speech, but he's going to make a really good president of Kentucky Farm Bureau, and he really is. But we're going to be electing a new executive committee from top to bottom. Even though Eddie's served on it for the whole 15 years that I've been president, he and I have been together. So not only has he been really a big benefit to me, but become a very good personal friend. But we're electing a whole new team, so that's going to be a lot of energy in our organization. On our Thursday commodity luncheon, which is the biggest probably day of our annual meeting, that's the day that Commissioner Quarles will be there and really will address our folks for the last time, and as well. So and we have an invitation to whoever our new commissioner is going to be. We'll have them at the podium as well, and along with Zippy Duval, our American Farm Bureau president. So we feel like we're going to have a lot of activity that day. So with that, I'd love to have every one of you there, and if you could come by for a part of it and visit with us. So with that, if there's any questions, Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to take those.
Thank you. I believe Representative Stevenson had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it is not a question. It was just a comment. You stole my thunder just a moment ago, because I was going to congratulate you on your recent 15-year anniversary as Kentucky Farm Bureau president. We all appreciate everything that you've done, your leadership. I know that you've had a very long tenure at Kentucky Farm Bureau, and your dedication and the service that you've given to the agriculture community here in Kentucky is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative or Chair Heath, I believe.
Yes, thank you. I want to echo that, and thank you for your service to the Commonwealth and your remarks here today. There's a good list for us to work on going into this session, and we look forward to working with your successors and working with Kyle and seeing what we can do to get some of those things across the finish line.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator Boswell, I believe.
Thank you for your service. I wanted to just make a comment about one thing you said about protecting farmland. Many times in Frankfurt, oops.
It's a friendly ringtone.
A duck.
Apparently, we need to protect good duck hunting land too. In that,
Sure. Anyway, what was I thinking about? You got me thinking about duck hunting. No, getting back to protecting farmlands. You know, obviously I agree with what the basis of what you're saying, but I also want to call attention to one other thing. Over the years, I've become aware of many times or several times when an older person passes away and he's home that farm for sometimes 50, 75, 100 years. And his family has the opportunity to take that land sometimes and to sell it. We got to make sure that we don't put limitations on somebody as to what they can do with the land. So I'm also about protecting farm owners' rights to decide whether they want to farm crops or houses.
thank you, Representative Tipton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Haney and Eddie and Kyle, thank you all for being here this morning. I'm just going to echo many of the sentiments of Mr. Haney and Mark. We've known each other for many years.
We have.
Through our relationship with Farm Bureau. And you have to understand, Mr. Haney was not only been president for 15 years, he also served as first vice president and second vice president. How many years were you totally on the executive?
25.
25 years on the executive committee of
Yes.
Kentucky Farm Bureau. You're always a voice of reason. Somebody says there's a shortage of common sense in Frankfurt, and you bring a spirit of common sense through your relationship with Farm Bureau. You've been such an advocate for Kentucky, not only Kentucky Farm Bureau, but the agriculture community in our state and all of our citizens. And I just sincerely appreciate the service that you've given to Kentucky agriculture and Kentucky Farm Bureau. I just wanted to express my appreciation, but I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
We understand that it is, I know that Farm Bureau had a program a few years ago, and I've heard so many acronyms I can't think right now, but it's about getting young farmers involved. And I think it was about developing relationships with young farmers and existing farmers for them to get in. Y'all have any thoughts on how we can get more young people interested in agriculture? And there are a lot of opportunities in agriculture besides farming, but we need people on the land. Do y'all have any thoughts on good ways or any suggestions on how we can get more young people interested in the actual farming of our land?
Thank you for that question, Representative Tipton. We've one of the things that came out of the last strategic plan that we have, we called it Vision 100, and we just kind of wrapped that 5-year plan up this past year. But one of the things that came out was a group called Generation Bridge, and actually Kyle is the staffs that person, or staffs that program, and it really takes the right after the young farmer program, that next group that really is able to get out there and really do the groundwork for advocacy and the things that we're really promoting in agriculture. And we're kind of leaning to them to also develop that young farm family program that's so important. As you say, it is difficult to reach all those. A lot are getting away, but we focus on that every day, and we don't have a magic wand to get it figured out, but we're working on it. We certainly are, and we're seeing a lot of interest in advocacy for really state government, ag issues, all those things, and we're trying to really hone the skills of those young people so they can certainly be in contact with you.
Thank you. I think we need to move on. Before we do, I want to thank y'all for all that you've done for rural Kentucky as well. I wanted to mention the Generation Bridge program that this administration came through that I think is just really important for our local communities and our rural communities. I know I grew up hearing stories about my dad and Eddie talking back and forth, and they met through young farmers. I won't go into stories. You're turning red over there, Eddie. We're on camera now. I'm not going to say anything. So you're saying. No, seriously, but my dad and Eddie Melton met each other through young farmer stuff, and that was part of the core fabric of our communities. Even though they didn't live in the same community, they brought that inter-community focus, and they were both involved in their respective home communities, and that's something that we can't afford to lose. And I think this Generation Bridge program is really, really important. And I've seen in my home counties how important that's been to support that gap of our rural communities between the young farmers and then the people that are working through retirement. So I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for everything that you've done in your long tenure too. And I'm sure you'll enjoy whatever retirement ends up looking like you. Farmers never retire. We know that. They just go on to something else. So we look forward.
Transition.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Next up, we've got the cattleman, Dave, if you and Nikki will come up. I'll put my glasses on when I just go to looking down. That'll help a lot.
My name's Dave Maples. I'm the exec at the Kentucky Cattlemen's Association, and Nikki Whitaker's with me. My president, Andy Bishop, had a medical procedure today, so he's not here. Alan Bryant's on our executive team, and he'll be coming up later with some other stuff. One thing I want to say is with Mr. Haney, I've been with Cattlemen for 25 years, so I've been right along with him in all the steps, and I really appreciate his friendship and his mentorship. And Farm Bureau's policy book is right there in my office. So about everything we do, we make sure it's in there. So that's what we do. We'll be quick. I'm gonna turn it over to Nick, and she's gonna kind of go through a couple of slides, and then we'll get to our priorities.
All right. Well, thank you, committee. Thank you, Chairman Howe and Kelly and Hillary, for emailing us and allowing us to come and reminding me that we had the opportunity to talk to you guys today. So I think what I wanted to do is a little bit different. I mean, we get to speak to you guys, but some new faces on the committee, or just tell a little bit about our association, who we are. I think the number one thing that when developing these slides, we just celebrated our 50th year. So we were established in 1973, and our purpose has been the same since then. We have been and always will be a people-driven organization. And our main purpose and goal is to protect and enhance the beef industry in Kentucky. And we, like Dave said, he's been here 25 years. I've been here 18. So we work every day for that goal and mission. Just a snapshot of Kentucky's beef industry. I get most of my data from census or from the USDA. But we have 32,000 beef farm families in Kentucky, and most of those are independent. So sometimes when we're thinking about our legislative priorities or just our programs and priorities, we have to keep that in mind. We have 1.9 million head of cattle and calves in Kentucky, but we're over $1 billion in cash receipts, and that's a huge deal for us, because while our cattle numbers and our farm numbers might have decreased 1%, our cash value and our market value has increased 13% in between the 2012 and the 2017 census. In Kentucky, we do small very well, 28 head of average on our cattle farms. A big number that we're trying to show people, especially when we start talking about our legislative priorities, is the amount of people who have a primary occupation off the farm. And that is a huge deal for us in not only the cattle industry, but in ag. And when you look at young producers, that percentage is actually even higher. It's around 75% for our young farmers. And then we've heard about our land, and 23% of total farmland in Kentucky is pasture land. And so we need those good forage pastures for our cattle. That's what makes Kentucky great. Some people say we don't really grow cows, we grow grass that the cows eat on. So those are just a snapshot. We are the largest cattle state east of the Mississippi. We always say that, and so you can kind of see there we have a good beef belt from Bracken to Barron. In my talks to some of you guys and just around Frankfort, also just a snapshot of who we are in our office. In our 50-year history, we've been able to maintain 3 main entities, being the association, the council, and the foundation. And then we have 5 LLCs. So what I thought I'd do today is kind of just give you a highlight of some of the programs that we have in our office. Like Dave said, we have a president, and Alan Bryant sits on our exec. We have a team of 15 exec members that meet monthly. They oversee our programs. They kind of tell us what to do within our programs and our budget. And then we have a 15-member staff that kind of goes out and does everything. I always tell new staff that might come into our office, like, everything we do is a farmer's dollar. So whether they're paying dues, whether they're paying the check off, whether it comes through the tobacco settlement funds, everything that we do. So we have 32,000 beef farm families looking at us, and that is our obligation, and that is our will to do right through those dollars. Like I said, KCA has been around. That's our foundation. We have over 11,000 members. That's a record high for us. So that's a testament of the good work that we've done. I always say our members trust us, and trust is a huge program within our office. We've been able to serve those members through non-dues revenue. One of them is our communications program and our media program. We provide services to 18 other state cattlemen's associations, 2 breed associations, and a private industry out of our office. So it's through that we're able to maintain our due structure and create revenue in our office. The checkoff is something that we are the Qualified State Beef Council. We have KRS the guidelines that we follow. And through that, we're able to increase demand and promotion and marketing of beef. Because again, if people aren't eating beef, then we don't have any cattle to raise. And so consumer demand has remained strong through COVID. We saw those meat shelves. They were all empty. And even through higher prices at the grocery store. So that's what the checkoff does in our office. One of our new LLCs, so we have 5 LLCs, like I said, is Kentucky Cattlemen's Ground Beef. That's through the Beef Solutions LLC. We just passed $6 million in farm gate sales. So that's going directly back to our farmers in Kentucky through their cull cow sales into Beef Solutions. And this all started to provide a pathway for Kentucky's farmers to enter the market. So we're in Kroger stores. If you haven't seen us, pick up a package. It's really good. We eat it at our house all the time. And then I see Brian Laceville back there. So the ag development funds, the tobacco settlement monies, these are very important to us. And we support the protection and the enhancement of those. We use those in our office through the Kentucky Beef Network. And through that, we've been able to do beef producer education. We work with UK through our extension agents, and this is a big benefit in our office, and we've had that since 2001 when it got appropriated to us. And then at the end of the day, we have a long-range plan, and this is, again, grassroots. Our producers came together and basically gave us our guiding document. And when this specific one was completed in 2019, I always say we didn't know COVID was coming. So we saw a lot of backlog. We saw a lot of disruption in our industry, and this, for us in our leadership, was a true guiding document. But as you can see there, and I won't go through them all, it's really to create value back to our producers. That is our goal and our mission and our purpose. We want to do that through different programs in our office. We hope that we do a good job doing that. And so this, again, is available on our website if anyone wanted to read the full document. And I will turn it over to Dave.
All right, I got 2 slides, and we'll be quick. Production efficiencies is the key issue driving structural changes in our world. Innovation, production efficiencies. Back in 1975, we had 132 million head of cattle, produced 24 billion pounds of beef. Today, that herd number is down. This is nationally. We're around 88 million cows, producing 27 billion pounds of beef, or 15% more beef, with fewer cows, fewer people, fewer. So, research, technology, genetics, herd health, nutrition has really played a part in it. So what our requests are, they go along the lines kind of with some of the things that Mr. Haney alluded to. But one of our first ones is our ask is this Livestock Innovation Center. I think having that and keeping Kentucky at the front of the table is huge. I want to thank Representative Pfister, what we're asking for, and we've worked a deal out with the University of Kentucky with 15 acres, 80-year lease on the Orange C. Little Research Farm in Woodford County. This is not a new idea. It's been around. This body purchased that farm in 1991. This is just taking it to the next level and kind of doing some stuff that was in the plan back at that particular time. It's a one-time request, and I would really hope you would support us with that. Our next one, and this issue, y'all have heard it many times, is the veterinary issue. We spent a lot of time on this as well. One thing, Representative Cook, is what we're going to work on is the Practice Act, and Michelle is back here, and we're going to meet with the Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners and work through some of that Practice Act, because we're actually making bad situations in some instances even worse with some of our policies. We need to work through that. I think we can, you put the veterinary community, you put the farming community, you put the animal in there, as well as academia. We're going to have to maybe reinvent some of the way we do stuff. So we're going to work on that before, Mr. Chairman, before the session. So two other things that we're going to look at is food safety. Food safety is a huge deal for us. Increasing the demand of beef by supporting multidisciplinary approaches to identify and develop interventions along the entire food supply chain. We spent a lot of money the last 2 or 3 years on small to medium-sized processors, further processors, but we have got to spend some more time on food safety and making sure we're bringing a safe, wholesome, healthy product to the market. And our last one is research. I think it's a huge thing. We talked about innovation and efficiencies early on. I think supporting some of the stuff that our land-grant colleges are doing, the University of Kentucky with their research facilities that they're building. We've been given a wonderful gift in a forage animal research unit there through Senator McConnell and USDA that's going to be built. And we just need to be on top of our game in Kentucky with forage animal or animal research. So that's our priorities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Senator Webb, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry I was late. That pesky day job we have, Good to see you all here. And, a little disclaimer, as a beef producer, my herd's in Woodford County, so I might be a little biased, but I also have been here long enough to know the acquisition and the history of that farm and its original purpose and the mission of that in the UK, to keep them focused on agriculture. And I just want to tell the committee, as a member of Appropriations and Revenue, I'd look forward to backing this project because it's bigger than just what it says here. It's close to Frankfurt. When school children come here, they can easily stop by there. And if we, Representative Tipton talked about young farmers' interest. First, we got to save the land, but we have to promote that and let children know where the food comes from. And we're fighting battles in animal agriculture every day on every level, from anti-utilization groups to the federal government to everywhere else. So education is key. And plus there's a culinary aspect that we can involve urban folks in. And I mean, this center is the future of animal agriculture in Kentucky. And I just want to put the plug in there. It is worthy enough for general fund appropriations, in my opinion and experience working the budget through the years. And I would just have the committee note that as we move forward in the session. And a disclaimer too, I finally joined you all, so the Cattlemen's Association, even though I go to all the meetings, but finally got around to doing that. But, for those of us who are in the beef industry and any animal agriculture industry and care about the future, this project is once in a lifetime thing that we can do. But thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Webb. Representative Tipton, I believe, has a question.
Thank you, Dave. Nikki, good to have you here. Dave, I want you to rest easy tonight. I finally remembered to send in my dues. The check is literally in the mail. and I also, after I sold 14 feeders 3 weeks ago, so I've been in a pretty good mood since then. Cattle prices are pretty good right now, so I'm down to 30 heads. So I'm just a little bit above average. Glad to see that. On a serious note, it goes along with Senator Webb's comments. I've been reading about a lot what's going on in the European Union, about the attacks on animal agriculture, and farmers are faced with some very difficult choices, and a lot of them are going to be forced to sell their cattle to slaughter. I'm talking about tremendous amounts of cattle. In California, we saw the ballot initiative that's impacted the swine industry. Are you all seeing across the country, are those type of efforts coming here, and what can we do to address them?
We have to stay on top of that all the time, and yes, sir, they are, and we just have to be very proactive and stay on them and address them one at a time. Folks come after our checkoff program. They realize that's where our money is, and they come after us. And it's a never-ending job. I think that's one reason we need to be out front and have a place and a presence, and then do more education with them and show them what we do. So, yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. We may need a little follow-up on whether that check actually gets there. We've heard that check in the mail thing a couple of times. We can address that at a later date.
Okay.
Appreciate your time
y'all.
here. Thanks so much. Next up, we have folks coming up for potential legislation regarding watershed jams. Chair Heath, you and your folks can make it to the table. You can stay up here. You're the chair. You can go wherever you want to go.
I'm going to stay here, but I will make a couple of remarks while the guys that are actually carrying the bill are making their way to the table. I've asked Representative McPherson to carry the bill. He and I have met with these other gentlemen over the interim and through a lot of meetings and what ifs and conversations, we've come up with a draft here that we think everybody's in agreement with, and these guys will elaborate more on that. And if you need me to chip in, be glad to, but I think you guys have got this under control, and I'm going to listen from here.
So I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Representative Sean McPherson, representing 22nd District.
I'm Mike Park, Madison County Soil and Water Conservation District, Richmond.
I'm Alan Bryant, and I serve as the president of the Kentucky Association of Conservation Districts.
So I'll just give you a brief history of where we've been to kind of tell you where we're trying to go. In the mid-1960s, early 1970s, there was a need for some watershed dams, earthen dams, to be built. And so there was about 200 of these built all across the state of Kentucky. In that, to try to oversee those, there was about 38 watershed conservatory districts developed. Now, the history of those have been, they got them built, they worked pretty well, they just don't seem to have maintained them over the years pretty well. They do have a taxing district, so they do have taxing authority to raise funds to do this. And some of them, I'm not going to speak for every one of them because some of them may be working perfectly. But we've definitely got a list of about 12 or so that we know that have silted in. They've had problems with dam erosion or just not maintenance as a general rule. So this legislation gives the framework and would repeal KRS 262.791 and would put in place then some framework for these watershed conservatory districts to be discontinued if they're not actively functioning. And it would allow it to bring it down to either the soil conservation district boards and or physical courts, whichever decided. So again, this is the framework to do that, and I'll let Alan go into more detail.
Alrighty, thank you. First, let me start off by saying, or trying to clarify, because it might get a little confusing, the difference between a conservation district and a watershed conservancy district. First, a conservation district is a subdivision of state government, and its primary purpose is to help landowners conserve their natural resources. As Mr. Haney mentioned, that the soil and water state cost share and ag districts, we're the entity that is in a partnership with NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation Service, and the Kentucky Division of Conservation that helps landowners by providing technical assistance, financial resources through EQIP, state cost share, local funds, to help landowners, beef producers as well, grain farmers, to put and install best management practices on their farm. And they're environmentally friendly, Representative Tipton, and if you want to capture carbon, NRCS is an expert at that, and these are, we're that entity that does that will help landowners do a better job with their land. Their conservation districts, there's one in every county, 121 across the state, 2 in Logan County. Watershed conservancy districts, they are a subdivision of a conservation district, and their primary purpose is flood prevention, flood control. There's 38, and they're responsible for 200 dams. I will get directly to the point, and these are just the highlights. If you have questions, please stop me. And to be concise, because I know I've got a time frame, so pardon me, but I'll be very concise and kind of just get to the point and the highlights. Section 1 establishes a new discontinuation procedure for inactive watersheds. Requires at least 1 year of board inactivity or failure to adopt and fund a budget. Periods of inactivity that began prior to the effective date are counted. Allows for a conservation district board or physical court to initiate discontinuance. Requires notification to any current board member and requires publication in a local paper. Allows for landowners in a watershed to request a public hearing. Requires the entity proposing discontinuance to hold a vote within 30 days. If no hearing is requested, you still have to make a vote within 30 days of when that time period would have expired. Requires other conservation districts or physical courts to hold a vote within 30 days of the initial vote. Now, this would be applicable because watersheds are not necessarily by counties if it goes into multiple counties. So it would require the others. If they don't vote at all, it will be considered to be voting in favor of. All entities that vote in favor, the discontinuance would become effective. Any entity, if votes to not discontinue, that watershed cannot be discontinued for years. You've got to go back to the drawing board, do that again for a year later. If a watershed is discontinued, then the boundaries remain intact and the landowner shall continue to pay the watershed taxes. Provides that a conservation district shall inherit all rights and responsibilities of that watershed as it exists today. Allows for watershed board members, allows for a discontinued watershed board to be reestablished by existing laws. That could be a possibility. Sections 2 through 4 contain matching fund language through the Department of Local Government and immunity language for conservation districts and watershed boards. Requires conservation district to advertise vacancies on watersheds, and 760 is amended to add language to allow conservation district to adopt that budget for a watershed. Section 7 amends or allows conservation districts to make adjustments to the amount of revenue collected, and it can only be used for the watershed. Section 8 repeals 262-791, as you mentioned. Section 9 declares an emergency. It's just a brief highlight.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add,
Absolutely.
I think the purpose, I think, for this is that, we have some federal dollars that are available every year, and these watersheds obviously need maintenance and continued maintenance, and the maintenance has grown to the point that this list that they've identified that we'd like to do over the next 12, 14 years would need about almost $100 million to do it. And the federal government will participate in this at about a 65% match. So we need the matching money. We need the 35%. And so that's what we're working on this bill, to bring this money down so that we can take care of these and so that we can fund this 35% for these districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator West, I believe you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the presentation. Very, very important topic to the state of Kentucky. Appreciate it. I think I know what you're doing, but I want to ask a few questions to make clear in my mind how it will actually go out there. So Soil Conservation District is taking on a new responsibility. You can pick and choose which projects you initiate this action, right?
Yes, if it meets the requirements, a year of inactivity, or
Right.
they haven't adopted a budget, that conservation district could step in, go through the process that's
But they're not
highlighted here.
required to. They're not required to.
That is correct.
Gotcha. So, okay. So is the general plan, the current board isn't probably doing what they're supposed to be doing, so we're going to put in a new board, and then that new board theoretically would apply for the funds through the overall soil conservation program. Everything's going to stay within soil conservation.
Yes, where the watershed board is not functioning, the conservation district could come in, go through the process, and then manage that watershed that will have flood control dams there. In some cases, there could be NOVs, and they would come in. They'd have the authority to spend the money and to do what's required.
Okay, I guess that's where I'm confused.
Or fiscal courts.
I guess that's where, okay. So the Soil Conservation Board initiates the action, but they're putting in place a new board, right? No.
No.
So Soil Conservation Board has taken on all that responsibility.
Yes.
So where does the fiscal court come in?
Either or.
They can choose to take over that responsibility if they want. They can initiate that if the Soil Conservation Board is not
either
inclined
could
to.
Initiate the action.
Either
or.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Representative Heath, Chair Heath, you want to add in something on this?
Sure, just a couple of comments, and you guys have done a good job of explaining this. I appreciate your work on it. There was another item brought to our attention. One of the reasons that we have trouble getting individuals to serve on the board is it's a volunteer board, no pay involved. was the liability. So we've got language in the bill that says a supervisor or a director on the boards would be exempt from liability in the case of a lawsuit. So we were hoping that would take some of the anxiety or the pressure off of individuals being willing to serve by knowing they wouldn't be sued or couldn't be sued.
Yeah, thank you. Representative Kleins, I believe, had a question.
Yes, I just for clarification, you said the counties are able to raise taxes to help support the watershed dams, correct?
Yes, if it's taken, if the conservation district or fiscal court takes it over, of course, I assume fiscal court would have their own authority to raise taxes, but the language in here would allow that conservation district to raise taxes or decrease depending upon what the needs of the watershed dams would be.
Are you able to provide the information of which districts or counties actually raise taxes, like within the last 10 years or 20 years? Not today, but
I think the Division of Conservation may be able to provide that to you. My organization does not have that. We can do a survey, but Division of Conservation might have more accurate information than I would.
Thank you.
I'd like to follow up on that. So are you just kind of creating an independent, have an option to create an independent taxing district, kind of like what we have?
They already exist.
Yeah, they already exist.
Yeah.
It's already there.
So it's already
Yeah,
in
it's
that.
already in place, but it's just kind of discontinued. So the taxing district is going to stay intact. The transfer is going to be made to whoever takes it over, whether it's the fiscal court or the conservation district.
Okay.
And
You probably said that, and I got lost in the transition there a little bit.
And most of the time, the fiscal courts have enough to do, and they don't have the expertise. They don't want it.
Sure, and kind of the crux of my question, we already have a framework in place, so we just go back down on top of that existing template then.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Representative Hale, I believe, has a question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Somewhat of a unique situation in where I live. The watershed district, these are in multiple counties. So in that instance, when you would be dealing with basically one watershed district but two fiscal courts, give me a plan of how what would have to happen there.
One fiscal court would have to take the lead and initiate this, and they would be the ones that took over.
So if I can follow up, so one fiscal court could take the lead for the other county?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
So what happens here is the money goes into one pool. The money goes into that conservatory. So each fiscal court would pay the money that's collected into that pool. And then one, like he says, one county, then whoever had the majority of the land would take the lead. But the money's already collected and goes into one pool. It goes into this Water Conservatory District Fund.
Okay, so what would be collected from both counties, then, if I'm hearing you right, would go to one fund from both of those fiscal court, the fiscal courts from both those counties.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Our county is part of a watershed that encompasses two other counties, and since the '60s when it was built, all those tax revenues are collected every year, and they go to the Watershed Conservancy Board, and they maintain those structures. And if whoever takes it over, what's the fiscal court, conservation district, those funds will be used to keep that watershed maintained, and in the instance of rehabilitated, those funds will just be used for that. They can't be used for anything else. They've got to be used in that watershed district.
And it's one board from 11 members, 5 from the main county, 3 from each of the adjoining counties that's in the watershed, and they act as one. They're supposed to act as one and to maintain those structures and to do what's right for the watershed and to meet the requirements of whatever laws that are out there.
And this money only comes from the watershed board that's defined, not the board, but the area that's defined. It's not coming from the whole county. It only comes from the defined area. So each person that is benefiting from it is paying part of the taxes on it, but nobody outside of that area pays the taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate that. Still sounds confusing, but thank you, sir.
It is a little confusing. That's why I think it's important to talk through part of this process. And I had this thought as we were talking through it. And if we have talked about this before, just remind me and tell me I was sleeping during the discussion or something. And I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I have this issue coming up some when I'm working through running title. And we have some of these watershed districts that are defunct and they're never going to be undefunct. But the easements are still in place, and we still have to deal with those easements, and there's no one to reach out to contact them. It's kind of similar, Representative McPherson, to what we had with the homeowners association bill that we did last time. Is there something similar in that bill to deal with defunct and watersheds that are always going to be defunct?
Yes, if they're not active, conservation district or fiscal court could take them over. Going through the process, they could take them over, and continue to meet the obligations of that watershed.
Is that presently existing in the fact that nobody just moves on?
Actually,
You need to do something to kind of nudge it along.
In 262-791, it's a bit cumbersome. You have to get the majority of the landowners to sign a petition. The board would have to agree. In this case, in Madison, in the case of Red Lick, the board is defunct through COVID and elderly board, and nobody came back, and all sickly and elderly. And then you'd have the board to vote on it, and then you would have to have a referendum. So in this case of Red Lick, there's 1,644 property owners, so you got to come up with 845 people to sign a petition. That's going to be, that's a little cumbersome. And then you'd have to meet all the obligations. If there's still a dam, it's an argument to say that you can't dissolve it because you haven't met all the obligations.
And we're going to leave that process in place?
No, 791 will be repealed.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So we'll get away from that little simple process,
Yes.
like the simple process for closing county roads. Apparently, I'm not the only one that's had the pleasure of that experience out in the crowd. Representative Tipton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate this information. I have a watershed in my district. One question I have you all had conversations with the boards of these conservation districts and these watershed districts? Have you talked to CAECO since fiscal court's involved and gotten their input? Because I have learned the bill comes out, people get involved and things come up. So I just want to know if you have had those conversations, and if not, I would encourage you to.
With other conservation districts, yes. Watershed conservancy districts, yes. CAECO, no. That's a very good point. I shall follow up.
Well, we've talked with all the county judges involved, and they're on board. And I think our county judge has been talking with CAECO, his representative of CAECO, so they're aware of it, and I think they're definitely in favor because this is a very critical issue, and this dam rehabilitation needs to get done because it causes serious problems if that dam fails.
Thank you, Chair Heath.
Thank you. The conversation has led me to come back around to why we actually started down this road. And we started down this road when we were in session this past session, and it was the judge executive from Madison County that came to us with this problem that the board was inactive. We had appropriated money through the legislature to help that county out, but because there was no board to ask for the money to start the ball rolling, everything was just sitting stagnant. And then we found out that's not an isolated situation. We also found out that there are districts across the state that are doing a good job. I have several of these watershed districts in my end of the state, and I have met with some of those boards, and their response was, thank you, we need some help, we appreciate the effort, and keep us posted.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate all the hard work you've done on this. I want to end this with just one comment. It kind of rolls back into what we were talking about earlier with Mr. Haney and Mr. Milton. We're having a crisis in some of our rural communities with people that are willing to step up and take on the thankless tasks that are so important to the community. Nobody knows about this stuff. It's one of those, if you know, but very few people know, and even fewer people, unfortunately, care. And being able to go into our rural, especially our rural communities, and develop talent, develop a bench to go and do stuff like this for our communities is really important. It's really vital. And we appreciate all the time that you guys have put in on this to kind of put the mechanism in place to make it easier for people to step up and do what we need them to do. We really appreciate your time here today.
Thank you.
Next up, I am proud to have the folks from Murray State University Hutson School of Agriculture come up. Dr. Parr, Dr. Shapour, if y'all will come to the desk and turn your mics on, introduce yourself, and begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman Howe, Chair Heath, members of the committee, and our dean, Dr. Parr, will be in just one moment, so he had to step out a moment. But proud to present today on an overview of just the Hutson School of Agriculture. I know at our last committee meeting, we were short on time and weren't able just to present about the really good things that are happening in our School of Agriculture. And I'm very proud to have Dr. Shapour here, our new Associate Dean of Agriculture, as well as Dean Brian Parr, who's coming up right now. So, and also our newly named Dean of Agriculture, Dr. Parr. So if you want to kick us off here.
Thanks again. Sorry, I had to make a quick bathroom break there. Thanks again for allowing us to come back and to speak and provide some updates on the Hutson School of Agriculture, which 98 years old. We're upcoming on our 100th anniversary of agriculture at Murray State University, which is a long time before Mr. Melton graduated there, I want to point out. And also a very long time before Representative Co-Chair Heath graduated there. So we want to point out that it's been there for a long time. We've seen a tremendous amount of changes. We believe positive changes over the last 100 years and really over the last decade, a lot of extreme growth. We have with us, and I assume Jordan just introduced our Associate Dean, Dr. Shapour. Very proud to have her as a part of our team, an extremely valuable team member there that's going to lead us through this presentation. So, Dr. Poor.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. So I am Dr. Shapour. My background is as an Army brat, so I've moved around quite a lot, but I did finally land here in Kentucky, and I've been with Murray State for going on 11 years now, and I'm very proud to have stepped up into the administrative side. The faculty are kind of muttering at me behind my back, but administrators do a lot of good, and so I'm very excited to be part of this team and help us move forward. I'm also currently the head of the Animal and Equine Science Department, so I help with that program as well and do the administrative side and support there. Probably one of my favorite jobs, though, is the Racer One coordinator. And if you're not familiar with our mascot who runs around the football field at our home games when we get touchdowns, I encourage you to come and visit us and get involved in the excitement of watching a live horse run around the track and come get your photo taken with our horse. So some of the things that we wanted to bring to your attention and just make you aware of is that we do quite a lot with recruitment, as any institution does, that involve getting the youth to our campus to get involved in programs and events to expose them to all the opportunities that we have in agriculture. And again, it links back to what we've been talking about today, where we're trying to get our youth today interested and involved in agriculture in ways that they may not be aware of. We have more and more students that are coming into our programs that have less and less experience with actual hands-on farming opportunities and activities. And so if we can get them involved with FFA and the state contests, the local contests, we have other states that hold their conventions here at Murray State. We have the EIFL program that we cooperate with Farm Bureau on to bring students in to learn about ag leadership and get involved in those kinds of programs. We have a drone program that I'll talk about here in a moment to get them involved in the technology side of agriculture, as well as our pre-vet and vet tech program that help get our students involved on that animal agriculture side. We also have a new program starting up in the animal science department that I'm pretty proud of. We have over 2,000 high school students that come to our campus every year. That's helped our enrollment grow. And in the decade that I've been at Murray State, we've grown a little bit more every year. And so we're about the only department, the only program, the only school of agriculture, at Murray State that has been growing every year. And we're very proud of that. This year we brought in almost 300 new freshmen. And that was pretty exciting. It overloaded some of our classrooms, and we've had to make some allowances for that. But that's a good problem to have, and we're pretty excited about all that. Our graduate programs have also been growing. We recently enacted an online program that's helped our numbers to expand. I think online is something that we definitely have to embrace because the way we do education is changing, and we can't do everything boots on the ground at Murray State. We have to be able to reach these students where they live, because some of them have jobs and they're trying to advance their education while they're working another job. And so our online programs are helping us with that. We have our Accelerate program that allows our undergraduates to begin to relocate into a graduate program through their senior year, which trims a year off of their education, so it saves them some money and gets them that advanced degree. And then we have our Specialist in Education for our ag educators that allow them to do an advanced master's program where they get that additional training, and then they can dovetail right into a doctoral education degree for post-secondary or for primary education and leadership in their communities. So we're pretty proud of those programs as well. Within our Ag Science department, we have quite a few partnerships with industry. We've already mentioned a little bit with our Farm Bureau, but some of the companies that are listed here do crop research that we help to host on our property. We have over 1,200 acres that are involved in various types of agricultural research, helping those companies to test their products, and then we get those results published and continue to help grow agriculture from that side of the program. We did pick up some new property recently that has, again, expanded on that. So I think I said over 1,200 acres now that we can use for crop research. We have students that are involved in that research. We have faculty members that program and coordinate it, and then the students are involved, their hands-on activities, and that gets a lot of them engaged in agriculture in a way that they never expected. It's more than just farms and animals. There's a lot that goes into it. And when they get involved in that research side in particular, a lot of them really start to grow and expand how they think about agriculture. I mentioned the drone program. So we have an unmanned aerial systems. We have a minor and a certificate that people can come in and get with that one. We were recently selected for the FAA's Unmanned Aircraft System Collegiate Training Initiative, and we're very proud of that accomplishment. We have quite a few students who have already graduated from this program and are working here in Kentucky, flying drones for a number of different types of activities, many of them farm-related. On the animal and equine science side, we have a faculty member who's helping to develop a meat science program, and that leads back into that food safety that you were mentioning a little while ago. And so he's in the process of developing not only some food safety and microbiology classes, but also some sensory classes. And we're kind of excited to see that one. He's going to be developing some classes on texture and taste analysis and color analysis of foods and how they're cooked and how they're processed. And we've got some students that are getting very engaged in that kind of activity. We're working on our articulation agreements with some of the chiropractic schools. I'm in the process of finishing one up with Logan University just outside of St. Louis, and we have one with Parker University down in Dallas. And so the students can come through and do their pre-chiropractic admissions, just like you would do a pre-vet program. But we have students that want to go on and do chiropractic on horses in particular, but they can also work on dogs and cats. And one of the most entertaining ones for me was the gentleman who is a chiropractor for rodeo bulls. Who would have thought that a rodeo bull needed to be chiropracted, but apparently they do. And so we've got that program that's growing, and I have an increasing number of students every year that come in and get involved in that one. We are starting up a new livestock judging team, so we're pretty excited about that. The faculty member came in last year and got that one developing, and we're going to have our first team in January, and so we're pretty excited to be pulling that program in. And again, that gets those students that hands-on experience that helps them to be able to keep that interest in agriculture and keep it going. On the equine side, we are hosting the 2024 American Collegiate Horsemen's Association Convention in Murray. We hosted it in 2017 in Lexington, and it was a very successful program. They've asked us to host again, and so we're excited to be doing that next year. And one of our showcase days is going to be at the Breathitt Veterinary Center. And so we're working on some stations for the students to learn about the diagnostic lab, how it's involved, not only in the equine industry, but also in animal health in general. And we're looking at some of the injury prevention. We have some of the veterinarians and staff there at Breathitt that will be involved in the programs. When we did it in 2017, we had about 125 students from 15 different institutions attend, and we've already got an indication that we may cap that number this year, which is a little scary because I was only ballparking 100 people and I might have about 150 coming in. So we got to find places for all of them to do stuff. And we're pretty excited again about that kind of a problem. Our rodeo team has kind of been revamped in the last few years, and we're really looking forward to the hiring of a new rodeo coach. Our last one has retired. And right now we've got kind of a showcase here in Tate Papsicki, who is one of our new incoming freshmen, who's already coming in with a very strong competitive career in rodeo. And so we're excited to see him come in and the energy that's coming into our rodeo program, which again is something that not every school has. And so it kind of sets Murray State apart and allows us to, again, engage students from all different fields of agriculture within our university. Our pre-vet vet tech program, you've heard a little bit about that one, especially with respect to the push for a new vet school here in the state. We have a new department head in that program as well. Our previous one has retired. We've had a number of transitions in our administrative staff. They have recently gotten some new equipment to update the teaching and the facilities, the technologies that they're using to teach the students. We've got over 400 students in that program, and a good 2/3 of them are pre-vet students. So we're doing our best to shepherd them through the undergraduate programs to get them into vet school, and then hopefully they do come back and practice here in Kentucky. And so we're looking forward to the support that we can give to a new vet school when that comes into play. Again, the Breathitt Veterinary Center, I know you heard about that one a couple of weeks ago when you got the vet school update. So the staff there are involved not only from the diagnostic lab side in agriculture, but also with our students. I have a number of research projects that have gone on, and those faculty are involved in engaging those students in research, which has actually gotten a few students into the laboratory and gotten them jobs and careers in that area where they'd never even thought they would be. And so we really value their contribution to the programs that we have at Murray State. Recently, we were able to secure some funding to support our Arboretum, and it's now the Duran Arboretum. And the funding that has gone into supporting that operation supports our community. We have a large number of people that go through and walk the paths and the trails. You can sit, on the benches and look over the pond and feed the fish and what have you. So it's a really nice green space for the community. And then we have a lot of research that happens out there with the Pullen Farm that's right next door. And again, we have students and faculty that are engaged in that with our industry partners to make all of this happen. And so we're very lucky to have this piece of property as part of our operation. I think you also heard a little bit about the Eagle Rest Farm. That's over 500-acre property that's up in Ballard County. We're in the process of working with the local FFA groups there to get some livestock as well as crop research and production going there. And we're ultimately looking at trying to establish some beef cattle up in that area so that we can expand our animal science program and, again, get the students involved on a working farm. So we're still in the process of transferring ourselves from a school to a college, and I'm not sure where we are in that process, but we're looking forward to that change. We have some renovations that will be coming to our building on campus here in the next few years, and we're excited about that. It'll update our laboratories and our classroom spaces. Mentioned Eagle Rest, and then about the vet school proposition that we are looking forward to. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak with you. We look forward to any questions.
I just wanted to jump in real fast on this last one. I know we when we met here at the last meeting, the major focus was on this vet school proposal, and we appreciate your interest and your attention to this matter. And I just wanted to point out just a couple of things that have come to light since our last meeting, and it has to do primarily with that vet school contract space. And I just want to make it clear that our contract is not contingent on the absence of a vet school in the state of Kentucky. It is possible per SRAB to have both, and we do support both. We have always supported that contract that we have with that world-class education that our students have got to enjoy there at Auburn University. But we think that this proposed school could be a piece of the solution, the large animal care solution, particularly, as I mentioned before, as a holistic approach to identify those students from rural Kentucky to help scholarship them and aid them to become viable vet school candidates to move through this program potentially within the state or in that contract space, either one, in order to help us rectify this problem that has been a problem for at least 50 years in producing enough veterinarians for the Commonwealth. So thank you once again. Be happy to take questions. The hard questions Dr. Poore will answer. The easy ones I'll go ahead and answer.
Thank you. I want to follow up on that. First
Sure.
of all, I didn't know if you were out in the hallway when we started. You were looking for some walk-up music or something like that to start playing.
Well, I thought the smoke machine would come on, Senator, but
I think it's being overhauled and getting ready for session, so we should have gotten you in here earlier for that. In all seriousness, I'm glad you touched on the issue with our because everybody's kind of presented this, and obviously it is a concern. It's a really good relationship that we've had. It's a long-standing relationship. It's been very beneficial for the state. But I think everybody's been treating it as an either-or proposition. Have you talked with Auburn any or gone into any depth on seeing if that's an and?
Yes,
not
sir.
an or?
Yes, sir. I certainly have. And so this contract is administered through the Southern Region Education Board, even though this contract predates the Southern Region Education Board. It's over 50 years old. And so the Southern Region Education Board administers this program, and it's a negotiated contract. There's two different programs that our state participates in with the Southern Region Education Board. One is the Academic Common Market, where if we have a program that other members of the Academic Common Market do not have in undergraduate education, they can come to our program and pay in-state rates, and that's a part of our agreement. And with that agreement, with that program, if a state were to create a program that was identical or very close to the one in the other state, then that agreement would be nullified at the request of the home university by and large. But that one is more of an automatic cancellation should we create a program. The contract is a completely different program, and I spoke with the lady that administers that at the SREB. And she told us a couple of things that I think were very interesting. I mean, first of all, she said this contract has no dependence on the absence or the presence of a vet school in your state. She said you could create 2 or 3 vet schools in your state, still participate in this contract, and that would be just fine. I went a little bit further, and I don't want to speak for them. I mean, we had the dean, the associate dean here from Auburn at the last meeting, and I've talked with them at length in the past, but would Auburn still want to participate in this? Well, I think it was brought up at the last meeting that our payment to Auburn University far exceeds the actual cost for a student to make up the difference between the in-state and the out-of-state. The opinion of the lady who administers the program through the SREB is that they would certainly like to continue this program, that it would not trigger any type of automatic cancellation. As a matter of fact, she used South Carolina as an example, where Clemson has recently built a vet school, or they're in the process of building a vet school. She said they're contractually bound to see their students through that have already been accepted, and that they as a state will likely wean themselves off of that contract gradually as they go over through the next several years. But they're not even obligated to do that. I mean, of course, they may see it as a duplication of efforts that they wish to wean themselves off of this contract, but there is no obligation to pull out of this contract at any point.
Thank you. I believe Senator Westerfield may have had a question. Are you good? Chair Heath?
I just wanted to follow up on that and say thank you for bringing that, and thank you for the question, Chairman Howe. I had a meeting with the dean and associate dean after our meeting adjourned last time, and I made it clear to them that we did not want to lose our slots at Auburn, and they were glad to hear that. Our goal is to run parallel programs. We can have both, and that's what I want to see happen.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, Chair Heath. I mean, the question that, you know, there have been a lot of questions that have come up, and the question that I'd like the chance to answer is, how could we be worse off for doing this?
Thank you. I had a follow-up question, too. With Dr. Poore about the meat science, when you were talking about the meat science program and everything, especially in the swine and poultry arenas. We have a lot of production agriculture in these two areas in the Jackson Purchase and surrounding area. Is there any correlation in there? Are we working with any of those industries? Are they engaged in any of the efforts that we're trying to do there?
We definitely are. That faculty member in particular, Dr. Thomas Powell, has worked with Kentucky Poultry. He's been working with Mr. Matt Schultz, who helps with our swine program, and they work with Tosh Farms. We've got students that have been working with Purdue and Tyson. So yes, we definitely are reaching out and continuing that industry engagement that we have. I think that one of the things that we are trying to be really good at is getting our students connected with the industry as we develop programs to meet industry demands. And that one particular program is growing very, very rapidly.
Thank you. I believe that has all our questions. Appreciate y'all coming up. Appreciate your time today, and y'all have safe travels home.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Next up, we have John Ard with Executive Director of Office of Fleet Management coming in with a report on the implementation of Senate Bill 281. You can come up and turn your mic on and state your name for the record and begin.
Good morning, Chairman Howell, Chairman Heath, distinguished members of the committee.
Can you see if your green light's on? If not, can you pull that a little closer to you?
I think it's on
either
now.
way.
My apologies, sir. So good morning, Chairman Howell, Chairman Heath, distinguished members of the committee. I'm John Ard, the Executive Director of the Office of Fleet Management. I have with me today Krista Jackson. She's the head of our Policy and Compliance Office. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today to provide the committee an update on our efforts to implement an alternative fuel strategy. The Office of Fleet Management reports to the Secretary of the Finance Cabinet and manages most of the passenger motor vehicles for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. During the fiscal year ending 30 June 2023, fleet vehicles traveled over 41 million miles and burned almost 2.5 million gallons of fuel, including gasoline, diesel, and E85. The motor pool staff managed reservations for almost 5,000 motor pool rentals, and our 2 help desk employees created more than 13,000 help desk tickets generated from phone calls from customers and vendors. Daily, they provide professional support to drivers and vendors by reviewing and approving an incredible number of transactions for parts and services or providing other assistance as needed. We placed orders for 237 new vehicles, retired 198 vehicles, and prepped 187 new vehicles for issue. Fleet employees accomplished a tremendous amount of work this last year, as they do every year, and continuously, every step of the way, they look for ways to improve our processes and better serve our customers, the many agencies and the employees of the Commonwealth. Today, I will provide an overview of our efforts to comply with this legislature's alternative fuel requirements as codified in the newly amended KRS 45 Alpha 625.
Can I stop you for just a second, please?
Yes, sir.
Move your mic a little closer to you. We want to make sure everything picks up on this. Thank you.
Sir. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. The first change from the amendment modified the verbiage and set a new baseline date for the 50% rule, which requires us to implement a strategy to replace at least half of our inventory of passenger vehicles with alternative fuel vehicles. The inventory count for establishing the baseline for the 50% rule is now based on the vehicles that will be in our inventory as of 1 January 2026, instead of the previous prescribed 2014 baseline. Based upon present inventory numbers, Fleet is currently compliant with the requirement. Fleet has implemented a successful strategy over the years, which has consistently resulted in compliance with the 50% rule, and we will continue to implement a strategy aimed at maintaining an inventory comprised mostly of alternative fuel vehicles. The second change in the statute is a shift in the verbiage in paragraph 1B. Previously, the paragraph required the Finance Administration Cabinet to reduce the government's dependence on petroleum-based transportation fuels where possible. The amended language now requires that we increase the use of alternative fuels to levels that are commensurate with the increase in vehicles managed by the Office of Fleet Management that are capable of utilizing those alternative fuels. As we continue to add vehicles to the fleet, we will also continue to implement a strategy to comply with these requirements. The remaining changes found in paragraph 2 of the statute affect the content of the required annual reporting and set 1 December 2024 as the due date for the first report. The Cabinet will, of course, fully comply with those reporting requirements. Based on October 2023 numbers, Fleet manages 3,880 passenger motor vehicles, of which 1,970, or 51% roughly, are alternative fuels. These numbers show, as what I alluded to earlier, Fleet is already in compliance with the 50% rule. Currently, Fleet relies heavily on E85 vehicles to meet the state's alternative fuel vehicle requirements. E85 vehicles can operate well on either E85, which is an ethanol-based fuel, or unleaded gasoline. Our records show, however, that most state employees most often fuel these vehicles with gasoline. But we're working on implementing some measures to encourage drivers to fuel these vehicles with 85 fuel when it is available. Fleet is also pursuing greater diversification of the state's alternative fuel vehicle profile by increasing the number of electric vehicles, currently mostly hybrid electric vehicles, in our passenger motor vehicle inventory. Again, I thank the committee for the opportunity to address you today. It's important to me and to my team that we comply with the statutes developed by this legislature and as we implement the Commonwealth's alternative fuel goals. I look forward to working with you, the legislature, and the executive branch to keep Kentucky moving forward. I'm, of course, happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions on this.
Yes, sir.
I thought you did a really good job of updating us on the supply side with the vehicles and everything. But I think part of the major point of what we're doing here today is talking about the usage of alternative fuels. That's been what we've been after for a while. And as we sit here today, I'm hearing words about we're continuing to implement a strategy. And by prior law, that strategy should already been implemented years ago. I think you had said that when this, what steps are you taking to verify that the alternative fuels are actually used? You said you're encouraging workers. They work for you.
No, sir. The
As
drivers
part of the state
are,
government, they work for us.
Yes, sir. They do. They do. So with the other alternative fuels, electric vehicles, obviously, there's no question. But with the 85, which is, you're right, we have not done enough to educate, encourage state drivers to put E85 instead of gasoline in those vehicles. We are working now with the advent of this amendment to try to come up with measures to do a better job of that. I can't, in my opinion, require them. The issue would be them being able to find stations where they can put E85 fuel in those vehicles. Effectively, it would make it much more difficult for me to have 85 vehicles.
A lot of these vehicles originate from a common source. Do we have E85 tanks at these sorts, or biodiesel tanks at these state garages or common sources for vehicles?
We have at our motor pool location here in Frankfort, we do have a gasoline and E85 pump. And the vehicles that come and go from the motor pool, that's one of the places where we're going to try to better educate and inform them. If they have a yellow cap on their gas tank, they should be putting E85 fuel in it. To my knowledge, we're the only ones who have a tank like that. And actually, WEX owns that tank. At the, I think you were referring to the KYTC locations around the state. I can't speak for them completely or directly, but to my knowledge, they do not have the 85 pumps at their locations.
Okay, so we're 10 or 12 years into implementing this strategy, and we don't even have the gas tanks in place in our garages. Is that what I'm hearing?
To my knowledge, that's correct, sir.
Have you let any RFPs for suppliers for tanks or alternative fuel suppliers? We RFP for contracts for everything under the sun, and we're 10 or 12 years into this, and have we even solicited RFPs for contracts for any of this stuff?
To my knowledge, we have not, sir.
Were you aware that this statute has been in place for quite some time now?
Well, yes, sir. The amendment obviously is new. I joined Fleet about 2 years ago.
Yeah, but the amendment just reinforced the things that you were already obligated to do that nobody's doing. So do we just need to yank all of the alternative fuel vehicles out? Are we going to give lip service to this, or are we going to do it?
Our intent is to better utilize alternative fuels where available. We can look into working with KYTC perhaps of putting alternative fuel E85 tanks at their locations. We have not had those discussions. I don't know.
I'm going to go out on a limb here.
Yes, sir.
Any place that sells E85 puts it in a tank, right? So they'll have it available for people to fill up their vehicles?
Yes, sir, you're correct.
Yeah. So this can't be rocket science that we could put tanks in all of our sources and take the other tanks out if you needed to, whatever it takes. If we're going to say we're going to do this, to actually do it. So I look forward, maybe we'll address this in legislative oversight. I look forward to seeing our request for proposals for doing this in the near future. Does anybody else have any questions? Representative All?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. When E85 was a new alternative fuel source that was popular across the country, it seemed like I saw, this is anecdotal, a lot of those pumps across the Commonwealth when I actually had a different role in the state of Kentucky. And to me, I feel like I don't see those pumps anymore. I see less E85 pumps. So I don't know if the transportation cabinet could provide you or somebody else like a master map of where those E85 sources are available, and maybe we could put a map in the cars to help encourage usage of those sources. I just don't know if they're prevalent as they once were, and I don't know if you have any information on that.
Yes, sir. So we contract our fuel services through a company called WEX, who provides, among other things, an app that is downloadable to individuals' phones that they can look for diesel, gasoline, or 85 fuel. Unfortunately, in Kentucky, currently, there's only, I think, roughly 65 locations that offer across Kentucky, most of those in Lexington and Louisville, that actually offer 85 fuel. I'm a farmer myself. Fortunately, I don't have to rely on my income from my farm to feed my family. My military retirement and my job here at State really provides most of my income. I absolutely want to see the farmers succeed. I'd love to see more utilization of 85. I'm not sure at this point, other than perhaps putting tanks at the state, installing tanks at locations around the state for state vehicles. I'm not sure what I can do at this point, sir, other than encourage and educate individuals.
Thank you. I'd like to have a follow-up on that.
Yes, sir.
That was my next question. A lot of times a certain cabinet will be tasked with doing things that has tentacles that stretch in a lot of different areas. In the efforts that you've undertaken to date to ensure compliance with this, what roadblocks have you run into? Because we can continue to rewrite this statute however we need to, and I can tell you that with at least 100% degree of certainty that I continue to plan to do that.
Yes, sir.
So what roadblocks are you running into that we can address statutorily to help you in this arena?
Sir, again, it's only recently with the amendment when we saw the, I'm sorry, sir.
You and I have the opposite problems. I'm too loud, so
yeah.
I have to back away from it. So,
you're fine. Until recently, the way the law was written, the focus has always been on ensuring we comply with the 50% rule, and we've done that successfully. The verbiage previously was where possible to reduce our dependence on petroleum-based fuels. We have not done a good job of looking for ways to increase the 85. And like I said, there's education, there's teaching folks how to download and use the app. We're also looking at, we're not sure if we're going to be able to do this yet, how to use our telematics, Geotab, and our WEX fuel app to combine data to perhaps see where a state car visits a station that offers the 85, and it's an E85 car, but it doesn't put E85 in there. And then we can work with that agency to help educate their drivers the importance of using 85 if it's possible. Again, the problem right now, and you're absolutely right, sir, there's perhaps more the state can do to spend money to put 85 pumps at state locations around the state that would certainly help our ability to sell 85 or to use 85 fuel.
Yeah, I'm in way more gas stations than I care to admit, and I remember seeing a lot of E85
Pumps. Yes, sir.
But when and where. I don't usually drive in
Yes, sir.
Louisville or Lexington. But I think that kind of actually outlines one of your earlier points. I think I noticed that because it's different. I was
The yellow?
I was an early adapter to diesel. I was diesel when diesel wasn't cool for passenger vehicles, and it was a problem sometimes to find a gas station, especially on certain parts of interstate systems that had diesel. You had to kind of hunt and peg for it. Is part of our problem that we need to just go away from E85 vehicles into some of our other alternative fuel options?
Sir, I would not necessarily champion that cause at this point. I also have federal requirements on vehicles I purchase, and without E85 vehicles, I would struggle both with this legislature's requirement of 50%, as well as the federal requirement for purchasing of vehicles. And E85 vehicles are becoming harder to come by as well. In 2015, there were 55 different models or variations of models I could buy. Last year in 2023, we're down to 13, and almost all of those were variants of half-ton and three-quarter-ton pickups. So most of the vehicles we have in the fleet, they are E85 or trucks. But going forward, I can't buy any more sedans. There is one SUV I can still buy as an E85. And there's a van I can buy as an 85, a couple of variations of a van.
Yeah.
But
that was kind of some of the context to my question on that. I still go to flea markets and see beta tapes along with VHS. So, there's some things that come in and out on this. But I know that we do have a lot of other options. From a biodiesel perspective, I know that we don't have to blend, that we can do some of this. And I believe that I remember from one of our prior discussions in this arena that a lot of our state fleet doesn't drive across the state. They have a home base that they go out and back, which is the crux of my questions. If we fuel these things in the garages or in the points of origin, then we don't have to worry about finding a tank when maybe they're going out and burning half a tank of gas during a week of driving. I mean, we do this. Every school district in the state does this every day. They fuel their buses up at their bus garage. They don't pull in to 5-star and fill up with diesel usually unless they're taking kids long distances. This model's not hard to implement, which is why I wanted to go back. Everything breaks down to supply and demand on some level, but I think we're making this, I sense, a little harder than it has to be if we focus on how to supply our alternative fuels for our fleet. Have y'all looked? I know I keep going back to this issue. But a lot of this stuff could be eliminated if we just fueled our fleets in our garages and our points of origin. Is there anything that you are doing as far as a planning that you have in place for that?
we have not, sir. We can go back and take a look at what you're suggesting and see if there's something we can do. But we have not looked at that, sir.
I'll give it a break for a minute. I think Representative Graham had a question earlier.
Mr. Chair, I just have a comment. I think you have tried to follow what the act does, and I think you have given us some information in terms of the difficulty of this whole situation. But I would hope that those of us who are in the General Assembly and will work with you in terms of trying to come up with, and the chairman basically just said that, and I hope that the two of you and who else you will be bringing to the table and who he will have to the table, that you can come together and try to find ways in which you can implement this into the action that is being requested.
Yes, sir.
But I understand and I support what you say is that it's been difficult. It's not like you're not taking the initiative, but it has been difficult for you, my understanding from your comments, in terms of trying to develop a plan of action that follows what the law is asking you to do. But I would hope that we would be able to work with you in a way in which some form of development you can put into place that serves the needs of what has been requested by the General Assembly. That's all I needed to say, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we went down this route of asking you all to put tanks in your local regional offices and things like the regional districts for the transportation, have you looked into how much that would cost?
I have not, sir. Like I said, we have taken the approach with the previous version of the bill where possible to reduce that is if there weren't, we were providing the vehicles. We have a tank at our own location, but I'm sure earlier in the days of E85 there was probably more stations. I don't know that, but certainly an expectation that availability would grow, and it hasn't. In fact,
Yeah,
the industry seems to be pulling back from that, from what I can see.
I think it would be worth you coming up with a cost estimate of how much that would cost you all or the Transportation Cabinet as a collective to implement that. And I think Chairman Howell had a good suggestion on maybe that's something we could do, and maybe we could help fund them in that effort to help implement that part of the strategy, as it does seem like the industry in general, and there's less pumps out there, so maybe this is one way we can accomplish that with a little support financially from the General Assembly.
I appreciate that.
Anyone else have any questions? Appreciate your time. Sorry to put you under the microscope, but,
That's fine,
but
sir.
this has been a long time coming with not a lot happening, and we look forward to seeing a little more rapid pace of accomplishment on this.
I
Thanks for your
appreciate it,
time.
sir.
That's all of the presentations we have. I want to bring the members' attention. There are a couple of reports in our folders. One's from the pork producers. They could not attend today, but they sent a report in that we had been looking for. And also, Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife has a report in there on CWD. This is the last interim meeting for agriculture. I want to appreciate everyone's patience today. We had a good long meeting, which is not something we do very often, but appreciate everybody being here on a Friday. Appreciate all the hard work that's gone on the interim. And we are adjourned.